So, Roger, first of all, thanks for sitting down with us today.
Sure.
We know that you are a busy person these days. First, let's just start with the news that's breaking right now. Phone's going crazy. Michael Cohen just got 3 years in prison for crimes including hush money and payments that the president ordered. Your reaction to this?
Yeah, I'm not sure that the alleged campaign finance violations are even real. I'm not sure there's actually a crime there. I mean, Donald Trump could theoretically give to his own campaign without limitation. At a minimum, there'd be an unreported campaign contribution. That's usually a fine of a couple $1,000s. I don't think if Michael Cohen didn't have serious tax evasion problems, bank fraud problems, and other problems, he'd have ever pled to the campaign finance violation. But once again, I don't understand what this has to do with Donald Trump or Russian collusion. Even if the president, then candidate, did direct Mr. Cohen to make these payments, I'm not sure they're illegal. Again, Cohen was never part of the campaign, never part of the administration, and he should not have lied under oath. I think that was an enormous mistake.
Are you surprised at the 3 years? Does that shock you that he would get that kind of time?
Well, the problem is he kept changing his story, and although he cooperated, I think it shows that a deal for cooperation doesn't get you much. This is a highly charged partisan prosecution. And I actually feel sorry for Cohen and his family, but he turned on Donald Trump as a rat, and he's bearing false witness against him, and I don't approve of that, obviously.
Let's talk a little bit about what life has been like for you, and kind of we're inside your home, and we appreciate you opening your doors to us. What is it like inside your life right now?
Well, recognize I've been a friend of Donald Trump's and a political advisor for over 40 years. I think I've been targeted for destruction simply because I supported Donald Trump and I helped defeat Hillary Clinton. I have been under microscopic examination for 2.5 years. The New York Times reported on January 20th, 2017, that I was one of 3 Trump advisors who were under surveillance by the Obama administration long before the appointment of Mr. Mueller or his special counsel investigation. And then, of course, the last 2 years have seen a parade of my current and former associates interrogated by the FBI, taken before the grand jury, and the microscopic examination of every aspect of my life, my family life, my personal life, my private life, my business life, my political life, my sex life, my drinking habits. By the way, I do like Russian vodka. And they have yet to come up with any crime, any Russian collusion, any WikiLeaks collaboration. So yes, I regard it as a witch hunt. Fortunately, I'm supported by a strong wife and a great family and many, many Americans who realize that this is just a mission of personal destruction. And the special counsel has no evidence of crime regarding the 2016 election or anything else. That said, I think we recognize that a federal prosecutor can literally indict a ham sandwich, and I have no interest in being Mr. Mueller's lunch.
You know, 10 associates so far have been called to the grand jury. Do you think that you will be called, and when do you think that might happen?
Well, first of all, you have no obligation to go to the grand jury, and my lawyers would probably advise me to invoke my Fifth Amendment rights. You notice the people who have been charged so far have not been charged with actual crimes pertaining to Russian collusion in the 2016 elections, but in many cases have been charged with lying to investigators. So I'm not sure my lawyers would ever allow me to be in that situation. I did testify for the House Intelligence Committee. I wanted it to be out in the public where everybody could see it. They denied me that chance. I'm not even allowed to have a transcript of that. But I do have Democratic congressmen running around saying that I perjured myself or I was less than truthful. That's false. Let me give you an example. I was asked under oath, did you have any contacts with agents for the Russian state or people representing Russia or people working for the Russian government? And I said no. I did meet with a man, Henry Greenberg, in May of 2016 at the request of an associate who tried to, quote unquote, sell me dirt on Hillary Clinton. I turned him down flatly. Turns out he was an FBI informant. He was working for Mr. Comey. So he was not an agent of the Russian government. He happened to be an ethnic Russian. But as you know, I would never say under oath, I've never met any Russians. You cannot live in South Florida and not meet people who are Russians.
So, at issue right now, I think, too, is whether you worked with WikiLeaks.
Yes.
And, you did have a back channel that you've talked a little bit about.
Yes. Well, as I testified for the House Intelligence Committee, after Julian Assange said in June of 2016 on CNN that he had a substantial trove of documents on Hillary Clinton and that he would publish them, I had a source identified for the committee, Randy Credico, a New York-based radio talk show host, who told me that whatever it was Assange had would be devastating, a bombshell, would destroy Hillary Clinton's campaign, and that it would come in October. He never told me the exact date, only October. Now I have a member of the House Intelligence Committee, Mr. Castro, saying, well, Stone lied to us because he said he didn't know the exact date. Well, I didn't know the exact date, and I point out to the congressman, October has 31 days. I thought it was coming October 1st. When Assange announced a press conference on October 2nd, I thought it might come then. In the end, he did not release his first batch of documents till October 8th. So there's no discrepancy there. But to get to the bottom line, I had no advance notice of the content or the source of the WikiLeaks documents. I never received anything, including allegedly hacked or allegedly stolen documents regarding Hillary Clinton from Julian Assange or WikiLeaks or the Russian state or Guccifer 2.0 or Julian Assange or Dr. Jerry Corsi or Santa Claus for that matter. I literally received nothing of the kind. Like every politico and political reporter in America, of course I wanted to know what it was that Assange has. But legitimate political inquiry is not illegal, nor is it criminal, nor does it violate the law.
So, you talked a little bit about your attorneys, and, this has got to be mounting a legal defense, and I know that you have a fund set up. Talk about how this has had an impact on you.
Well, that's the worst thing, is that the expense has been enormous. I mean, recognize that I was sued in a defamation lawsuit. I won that lawsuit. I was sued in a lawsuit by an Obama-backed group that accused me of Russian collusion. That lawsuit was dismissed, but that dismissal cost me $250,000 in legal fees. I'm currently being sued by the Democratic National Committee, allegedly because I received hacked materials from the Russians. Good luck on that one, but I still have to defend. I have the House Intelligence Committee now gearing back up to go back through the already plowed ground in which they'll find nothing new. I have the Senate Judiciary and the Senate Intelligence Committees asking me for 3 trailer truck loads of documents and asking me to testify, but refusing to allow me to do so in the open public where everybody can hear what I have to say. The cost of this is astronomical. I could be looking at legal fees of up to $2 million. Now, you can go online right now, you can look up Roger Stone, and very high up in the Google search will come a story that says that I'm worth $10 million. In your dreams. I have to struggle to support my family. I've written 5 best-selling books. I have 2 on the way. I have a small number of public policy clients. They're not political clients. I have no foreign clients. I've never had any foreign clients, in terms of lobbying, since the 80s at least. So the cost has been astronomical. I've set up a legal defense fund at stonedefensefund.com, and frankly, at this point, I'm facing a pretty bleak Christmas if I don't raise some money, because at this point, every dollar I have has to go into my legal defense.
The president has tweeted that you have a lot of guts. Is it guts?
Well, it's interesting. I was on ABC with George Stephanopoulos. I didn't say anything that I haven't been saying for 2 years, which is quite simply, no matter what Mr. Mueller and his investigators choose to do, I'm not going to bear false witness against the president. I'm not going to lie, to avoid some trumped-up charges against me. It's not that this is new. I've been saying it for 2 years, but it seems to have just caught the public consciousness. The idea that the president is engaging in witness tampering is disproved by the fact that I wasn't saying anything I haven't said since the day after the election. I should say since the day after Mr. Mueller's appointment.
Do you talk to the president still?
I have not talked to him in some time. I suspect that's because his lawyers have advised me him not to speak to me. My lawyers have advised me not to speak to him. We're looking forward to a reunion when this is all over.
Do you think that's going to happen soon? How long do you see this going on?
Well, in all honesty, the House Democrats will vote articles of impeachment against the president. They will do so early next year. The fact that they have no evidence, or that the evidence of campaign finance violations don't rise to the level of impeachment, is immaterial. They're rabid. They're hysterical. They're making a giant mistake. Just as the Republicans voting articles of impeachment against Bill Clinton for dallying with Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office was an overreach that the American people did not react well to, trying to remove Donald Trump over payments to a woman who potentially was going to embarrass him and his family doesn't rise to the level of impeachment. What happened to the Russian collusion? Where's that? What happened to the conspiracy in which Donald Trump and his advisors conspired with the Russian state to elect Donald Trump? It doesn't exist. So they shift to a new issue. I don't see 2/3 of the U.S. Senate buying this. I agree with what the president said. There will be a revolt in the country. I don't advocate one. I'm not advocating violence. I want to be clear about that. But it's not 1974, in which there were only 3 news networks and they were able to dominate the political narrative. The American people, I think, are enjoying a robust economy and an incredible economic resurgence. I don't think they're going to put up with the removal of this president on trumped-up charges of campaign finance violations.
You've said that you thought Robert Mueller could frame you for this. Can you talk a little bit about what that might be?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that there's no longer any vulnerability or any potential liability regarding Russian collusion or WikiLeaks collaboration. So what we're down to now are perjury traps and trumped-up process crimes. For example, Randy Credico went on MSNBC, repeatedly lied about being my source. But I knew that Credico had told David Lugo, a filmmaker, to his face in a text message that he was my source, and that Mr. Lugo was among those who was summoned to the grand jury. And he testified truthfully there as to Mr. Credico's role, and the fact that Mr. Credico threatened to put a bullet in his head if he came forward and spoke the truth. Yet the idea that I would be charged for intimidation, because when Mr. Lugo asked me what to do, I told him, why don't you make a video or write an op-ed piece telling the truth to get your side out of it? So the idea that I would urge somebody to exercise their First Amendment rights and come forward and tell the truth can somehow constitute witness intimidation or obstruction of justice, that's laughable.
Do you fear the president may have surrounded himself with some folks that perhaps he shouldn't have? I mean, we've seen 10 people so far, indict. Do you feel that maybe he should look closer at the people he's surrounding himself with going forward?
Well, I've been unhappy with some of his choices for the White House staff and for his government, because in many cases I think he has appointed men and women who didn't vote for him, don't support his reform agenda, don't want to see us withdraw our troops from Syria or Afghanistan or Iraq, who don't share his commitment to building a border wall for our security. So my concern is that he has timid advisors who are ill-suited for what is going to be a brawling fight ahead. This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out struggle for the future of our country and the future of our Constitution, and I don't know that the president has people around him who are prepared for that. He is himself a fighter. He is holding all the cards, because he has documents that, if he declassified, will show that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and John Brennan, the former CIA director, and James Clapper, the former director of intelligence, knew about the use of illicit and illegal and unconstitutional FISA warrants that were used to rationalize spying on Donald Trump and his campaign. Let's think about that for 1 second. That's a crime far more egregious, a bigger abuse of power than Watergate. That's the use of the authority and capability of the state to spy on the Republican candidate for president. That is entirely prosecutable, and I think the president has documents that prove that it went all the way to the top. The president approved it, that everyone in his national security apparatus approved it, and they have consistently lied about it. What's amazing to me is that Mr. Mueller and his investigators have no interest in the crimes of Barack Obama. They have no interest in the fact that Bill and Hillary Clinton took and $43 million from the Russian energy company at a time that control of 25% of America's strategic uranium assets were on the table for transfer to Russia. That's just astounding.
What are you up thinking about late at night? I mean, is it tough sleeping having all of this going on around you?
No, actually, I sleep pretty well because I know in my heart that I've committed no crime regarding Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or anything else regarding the 2016 election or anything else. What keeps me awake at night is thinking about how I'm going to pay my bills and how I'm going to raise more money, because I have to raise money to survive. But I have no doubts about the path ahead. No amount of pressure can force me to plead guilty to something I did not do, and no amount of pressure can get me to turn my back on my friend of 40 years, Donald Trump, who is doing an amazing job of bringing America back. Remember, he inherited a flat economy, and Barack Obama said, what are you going to do, wave a wand? Well, yeah, he did wave a wand in the sense that he cut taxes and regulation, has brought the American economy back to the point where we have created 4.2 million new jobs, we have record wage growth, unemployment at the lowest point in American history, African American and Hispanic unemployment at the lowest point since we began keeping those statistics, billions of dollars pouring back into the country for investment. No, America's back, and I think Donald Trump deserves the credit.
And when you go out in public, what is that like these days?
Well, it's a mixed bag. I mean, there are a lot of people who want to come up and get a selfie, want to shake my hand, want to tell me how much they love the president, want to tell me how they hate it when they go out wearing their MAGA hat or a Trump t-shirt and they're harassed. And then there's a whole nother group of people who want to shout at you, call you a Russian agent, a traitor. This is particularly insulting to me because I'm Hungarian American. My relatives were mowed down by Russian tanks in Budapest in 1956. I don't like Russians. I don't like the Russian system. I don't have the time of day for Vladimir Putin and their oppressive system. I'm a loyal American. Accusing me of treason just because you lost the election it's really dismaying. But it's the people who want to engage in physical violence, the people who want to take a swing at you, the people who want to fight. That's why I have to travel now with security anytime I travel outside the immediate South Florida area. It's very sad that our politics have come to that, but unfortunately a lot of people want to engage, in violence. Last night when I flew into the airport here in Fort Lauderdale, I had some woman start taking my picture. I just stopped her and I said, pardon me, would you ask my permission? Am I sticking my camera in your face, taking your picture? Maybe I should. And I did.
So, Roger, you're no stranger to controversy. You've had, I guess your share of it over a lifetime. How do you see this, in the grand scheme of things, where do you see this ending up? How do you think you'll look back at this 5 years from now?
Well, as I've often said, the only thing being talked about is not being talked about. Pardon me, let's say that again. The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about. And to a certain degree, I must tell you, this has allowed me to sell more books and to have a forum to get my side of the story out. Internet censorship has hurt me very badly. I had 450,000 followers on Twitter when I was banned for life because I hurt Jake Tapper's feelings in a tweet. Clearly, my Facebook is being manipulated through shadow banning. It's not possible to have 185,000 followers, but only have two people, repost your postings. So it's had a negative effect in that sense. Look, I'm I guess, trying to explain to people Donald Trump is very difficult. There is no Karl Rove in Trump world. Donald Trump is his own man. No one puts words in his mouth. Nobody puts ideas in his head. Nobody tells him where to go or who to talk to or who to appoint. He makes his own decisions. At the end of the day, I'm just happy to have been a part of history, a part of turning this country around. I'm happy to have helped contribute to his election, but the architect of Donald Trump's improbable presidential victory is Donald Trump.
The two of you are very similar, I bet.
Well, in some ways. I mean, look, I'm combative as he is. I'm very proud as he is. I'm not going to sit back and be quiet. When you're falsely accused of doing something wrong and you say nothing, which is what the lawyers would urge you to do, well, then many people say, oh, that guy must be guilty because he doesn't respond. I will always respond. So whether it is Adam Schiff, that eye-popping freak who is the incoming chairman of the Intelligence Committee, or Eric Swallowswell, the congressman from California, or Joaquin Castro, that precious congressman from Texas, when they malign me, when they defame me, when they hide behind their congressional immunity from lawsuit, well, then I am going to respond, and I will always defend myself.
Just when you talk about perhaps being framed, is there ever any fear or concern that that you could end up behind bars like Mr. Cohen?
Well, that's a hypothetical question, and I've been in politics long enough to know that you don't answer hypothetical questions. I put my faith in God. I put my faith in this president. I put this faith in the support of my family. I've done nothing wrong, and I will fight to the bitter end to prove it if necessary.
Perfect. Scott, anything?
If that wasn't a money shot ending, I don't know what was.
No, that was pretty good.
Good.
Is there any bombshell you can drop? Is there anything that is going on right now that...
I think we pretty much hit it. I mean, that sequence in which, again, you have Eric Swalwell out saying, Stone lied about contacts with the Russians. I checked this very specifically. See, I'm not allowed to have a copy of the transcript, but my lawyers can go examine the transcript. What they asked me is, did you meet with any representatives of the Russian state? Did you meet with anyone working for Russia? The answer was no. That's not the same as, have you ever met any Russians? Right. So it's a perfect example. Stone denied that he's met any Russians. That's not what I said. I've never met with anybody who worked for the Russian government. I've never met with any agents of the GRU. I met with some nut job in Sunny Isles who tried to sell me dirt on Hillary. The meeting lasted less than 15 minutes because I said, not interested, see you around. And he turns out to be an FBI informant, and that information can be found online. I mean, we actually have his informant visas have been posted online.
I know the president is, signed up to run again. Do you think he should?
Well, I'm not sure that he will run again. I don't mean that he would be run out of office or that he couldn't be reelected. I think the prospects, particularly if the economy continues as it is, but I don't know why he would take the grief. In other words, if he continues to turbocharge the economy, if he builds the border wall or at least seals our borders and repels the caravans, if he redoes these multi-international, one-size-fits-all trade deals to get better individual trade agreements with each one of our trading partners where we both benefit, I think that he could walk away after 4 years, go down in history as one of our greatest presidents, and just go play golf. In other words, he didn't run for president because he needed the job for his self-esteem. He didn't run for president because he wanted to become better known. He wasn't universally known. He didn't run for president because he wanted a bigger house or a bigger plane. He already had a bigger house and a bigger plane. He ran for president not to be someone, but to do something. And if at the end of 4 years he believes that he has achieved that, I could see him riding off into the sunset.
I think that's good. You want to just get a couple of cutaway shots?
That's a pretty good